The Super Smash Bros. Series is filled to the brim with Easter eggs that reference the several series included within it. Some of these are small, like Steve having unique sound effects for climbing a ladder. Some are a bit bigger, like Piranha Plant having a hidden move for when he gets footstooled while crouching, but pretty much all of them are always really fun to learn about. Out of all the Easter eggs in Smash Ultimate though, the one that I think is by far the most in-depth and interesting are the Palutena's guidances. By playing as Pit on Palutena's temple, you can activate this Easter egg by pressing down taunt for 1 frame. After a few seconds, this will cause a conversation to begin about Pit's opponent, which will usually feature Pit, Palutena, Viridi, and rarely some other characters talking about the fighter and giving some tips on how to beat them. Every character in the game has their own, and many of these conversations can actually be quite funny. However, some of these are better than others, so today I thought it would be fun to rank every Palutena's guidance in Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. This will pretty much be fully ranked based on how funny I think it is, along with if the guidance features some other Easter eggs itself. I don't really care that much about the actual fighting tips, but if there is something interesting about them, I will bring it up. It's also important to not take these rankings too seriously, as I think a large majority of these are pretty great. It was honestly pretty difficult to come up with the rankings this time around. One last thing before we start though, I'm not going to be playing the entirety of every guidance, seeing as that would take over an hour to completely run through. But with all that finally said, if you enjoyed this video, make sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel, and let's jump right into the ranking. Last place on this list was super easy, as it's actually an 11-way tie because these characters all got the exact same Palutena's guidance. These characters are Joker, Hero, Banjo, Terry, Byleth, Min, Steve, Sephiroth, Pyramithra, Kazuya, and Sora. Since they were added into the game post-launch, I imagine they didn't want to have the voice actors record new lines for each of the new characters. This is pretty lame, as I would have really liked to see what the Kid Icarus crew would have had to say about characters like Steve. At the moment though, this Palutena's guidance is just a simple placeholder, basically just having Palutena say she has no idea who the fighter is and that maybe they came from a different dimension or something. I guess I do appreciate the DLC characters having any sort of Palutena's guidance at all, but this being the same for all of them is super lame. At the very least, now if somebody is complaining to you about Steve and Kazuya being unbalanced, you can point to them not having a unique Palutena's guidance as a pretty strong weakness. But with the DLC fighters out of the way, we can finally jump to the characters that actually have a unique guidance of their own. Starting off, we have 80, Olimar. This has one special property that is only shared by the DLC fighters we mentioned before. They don't say his name a single time during this guidance. The most he's described as is Pit calling him,
"Oh, it's that explorer guy."
I mean, I don't really like Olimar in Smash, but even to me that's cold. Now normally I wouldn't care that much about something like that, but the reason I find that to be pretty lame is because I think this was likely done to avoid having to make 2 Palutena's guidances, one for Olimar and another for Alf. Now, I'm not sure why they'd be so against doing that. Several characters have gotten different guidances for their different alts, but it seems pretty clear to me that they only wanted one for Olimar. At least the tips for what each Pikmin do is actually pretty helpful. It doesn't give complete info as to what they do, but it's a good general idea for anyone who doesn't know. But yeah, for just feeling like an excuse to not make one more guidance, Olimar takes last place. 79, Rosalina. In this Palutena's guidance, we learned that yes, the Lumas do indeed die to protect Rosalina. How can you Rosalina stans go around calling her a caring mother figure to the Lumas when she is clearly just using them in order to have disposable bodyguards for herself? I mean, Viridi says that Rosalina doesn't think it's that big of a deal, which is pretty shocking to Pit, of course, because what type of evil person would set their own children up for that? I want to hear you Rosalina stans try and defend this one. You all always hate when I call her cringe, so go ahead. I dare you to find an excuse here. 78, Mii Brawler. This one is just very generic, which I guess fits for a Mii, but there really isn't anything notable about this one. Surprisingly though, the other 2 Mii fighters actually got pretty decent ones, so we'll be seeing them much later. 77, Zero Suit Samus. There's once again really not much to talk about for this one, nothing really that funny, so it's kind of forgettable. 76, Sonic.
It's true that you're more likely to find him curled up in a cute, harmless ball.
No kidding. For how much content Sonic has in his series, I was thinking they'd try to make one at least a little bit more interesting for him, but they really only focus on Spin Dash. Hey, just like Sonic players. But yeah, wish they tried for something a little bit better here. 75, Jigglypuff. There's really nothing of note here, as it's just a tutorial for dealing with rest. 74, Greninja. Again, nothing that funny or interesting is said here. Viridi telling Pit to cover himself in spicy peppers to defend against Greninja's tongue scarf did make me chuckle a little bit, which is what gave it the edge over the last few. 73, Bowser Jr. This is actually our first character to get a different Palutena's guidance based on the costume he's using. Since the guidances between him and the Koopalings are so different though, I'm going to be ranking them separately, so first up is Jr. himself. Once again, nothing really funny is said, but I am happy they went through the effort to give him a different Palutena's guidance from the other Koopalings. 72, King Dedede. You get the picture by now for these lower entries, nothing too interesting, but I do like the last exchange here.
If you can eliminate him by reflecting the Gordo, that will count as your KO.
What's a KO?
Good luck, Pit.
For that, I did give this a tiny boost. 71, Captain Falcon. A majority of this guidance is spent with Viridi and Pit talking about machinery, which is kinda fun, but the real standout thing for me comes from Palutena.
Anyway, if you're near Captain Falcon, watch out for his jump and Falcon Punch combo.
What is she talking about?
Falcon!
70, Simon. I think Pit knowing of Simon because their games came out around the same time is pretty cute. There's nothing else really too special or funny about this one, but that starting interaction was pretty good. 69, Corin.
For Nor! For Hashino! I make my own fate!
Aw man, Pit is a Fire Emblem Fates fan. I'm sure the references in this one are cool, I just don't get them. 68, Little Mac.
He seems tiny though.
Okay, Pit, you're like the exact same height. Don't do him like that. Besides that line, though, I do like how Pit asks if he can still use his weapons after they hype Little Mac up. Overall, this one is fairly decent. 67, Pikachu.
You can also zap Pikachu by reflecting its thunder back at itself. And nothing is more satisfying than that.
I mean, that was okay, I guess. The rest of this guidance mostly just hypes up Pikachu for being famous, though I am pretty happy that my boy Raichu actually got to be recognized in some way, even if they just use him to say he's not as famous as Pikachu. 66, Squirtle.
I have a sudden craving for tiny turtle stew.
This is our first, yes first, Palutena's guidance, where one of the three here wants to eat the opponent, so that'll be interesting. Anyway, there's not much more here aside from that. 65, Diddy Kong.
Don't underestimate him just because he's a monkey. He's faster and stronger than any human.
Palu, you freaking liar. I do think it's a little funny how Pit isn't against the idea of Diddy Kong's peanut pop gun.
Oh, Pit! What won't you do for a snack?
You were literally gonna eat Squirtle one entry ago. 64, Me Sword Fighter.
Which really isn't easy in this case. That me is awfully funny looking.
Oh, come on, he doesn't look that bad. He's, got character. Aside from that, there's not much. I just find it funny how Me Sword Fighter is the only one who gets bullied for their looks. 63, Charizard.
It's not funny. I'd go bald.
I just found the mental image of a bald Pit funny, I don't know. 62, the Koopalings. Okay, so technically all of the Koopalings got their own guidance, but the only thing that changes is the name that Palutena says here, so I'm going to be combining them all into one ranking. I do think it is really neat that they each got their own though, when they very well could have just said, that's one of the Koopalings, so that gave this a boost. This also points out the detail that the Koopalings clown cars are meant to be cheaper versions of Bowser Jr.'s, which I think is pretty funny. 61, Male Weave Pit Trainer. Most of the characters that have gender swap costumes do get extra guidances, however they're usually just changes in pronouns, which makes sense. For whatever reason though, male and female Wii Fit Trainer got completely different guidances, so they're going to be ranked separately. This one just features a nice little interaction between Palutena and Pit about exercises.
You're so sweet, Pit.
And always at your service, Lady Palutena.
60, Palutena.
Lady Palutena, you're fighting me?
Good luck, Pit. You're gonna need it.
I like that for this one she doesn't give any tips at all, plus her implying that it's going to be a massacre is great as well. 59, Ken. This one has a funny exchange about Pit only really caring about him being rich. I will say though, I was a bit disappointed with Palutena's gossip time. I mean, it's just a fun fact I guess, but not very gossipy. 58, Wolf. This is our first guidance to give us a Dark Pit cameo. While that may not be much, that did shoot this up quite a bit because of how few appearances he gets in these. 57, Villager. For the start of this one, they make fun of Villager's name, which I guess is fair enough. What really brought this one up though is when they start talking about why the Villager plays like he does.
Probably because where the villager's from, there's a mole who goes around punishing cheaters.
Rossetti.
Clearly something happened between these two in the past. 56, Mr. Game & Watch.
Getting hit with a 9 will knock out any fighter with a single strike, no matter who it is.
Wow, you're both just a bunch of liars, huh? Aside from the 9 talk, I do like the fact that Pit thought it was a shadow bug, which is a pretty cute reference to the Subspace Emissary. 55, Ike. I like how this conversation focuses on how you can use 2 different versions of Ike in Ultimate, even if the Chad Ike is the only one ever really worth picking. I do find it kind of funny that they talk about how it really doesn't make sense that they're equal in strength. Overall, a pretty solid one here. 54, Ganondorf. While there's not much in terms of the funny department here, I did enjoy the talk about Zelda lore along with the game theory that Ganondorf is just the exact same person born over and over again. 53, Ridley.
Ridley confirmed.
Alright, that was a pretty cute reference to how requested of a character Ridley was. Throughout the rest of the conversation, they talk about a bunch of Metroid lore that goes completely over my head because I've only ever played like 5 seconds of the original NES Metroid. I'm sure they're pretty neat references though. 52, Meta Knight. They spend most of this talking about how similar Kirby and Meta Knight look, which makes sense as that is always a fairly popular conversation about the character. 51, Lucina. I like how Pit immediately thinks that Lucina committed identity theft the instant he heard that she took on the name of Mark. I also like Viridi's last line too.
You can't tell by looking at her, but I hear she's got a great sense of humor.
50, Dark Samus. This is another pretty lore-focused one, though I do like Viridi's line here.
The monkeys never should have messed with the stuff.
Joke's on her, being a monkey is awesome! Also, according to the wiki, this line is actually not very accurate to what actually happens in the games, but I know nothing about Metroid, so I can't comment on that. 49, Pichu.
One day you'll wake up unable to do things you could in the past.
That's depressing. Oh. Is that what it's like for you, Lady Palutena?
Pit rooting against himself in this one is also pretty funny. 48, Donkey Kong.
Yeah, except for dressing himself, that necktie really doesn't leave much to the imagination.
Okay, what's with the DK slander? He looks fantastic in that tie. I mean, he looks better than me at least. I'm just sat here wearing an Among Us shirt. Anyway, there's not much else here other than advice, though it's not bad advice. I've had my shield broken far too many times by DK at this point. 47, Kirby.
He's got all kinds of moves, and he's top-notch at recovering. Does this guy have any weaknesses?
You know, as a part-time Kirby main, he's got a lot. Viridi making fun of Pit here was also great, though that goes for most guidances she's in. 46, Falco. And we're right back to eating birds because Pit instantly thinks that Falco would taste delicious. I do also like how they mention him not really looking like a falcon despite the name. 45, K-Rool.
I'm pretty sure all mouth-breathing knuckle-draggers like bananas. They're like the litmus test for idiocy.
I don't know what that means, but I love bananas!
Wow, that was just embarrassing, Pit. Other than that, this is just some more lore stuff. Definitely pretty solid. 44, Lucario. This one takes an interesting spin with the concept, as instead of Pit asking about the character, this time Viridi is the one who wants to know more about it. Her wanting to recruit Lucario as well as a fun touch. This one is definitely pretty unique structurally. 43, Robin. This one was an interesting one to rank. First off, this does technically have 2 different versions based on if it's male or female Robin, though only the pronouns change, so it's not really worth ranking them differently. This is also a pretty big downgrade from the Smash 4 version, which actually featured Crom. It makes sense that he's not here this time since he actually gets to be a fighter, but his removal is a bit sad. Still, this one is definitely pretty decent. 42, Ness.
It's a general term for supernatural abilities.
Supernatural? Isn't that pretty unscientific?
Out of all the fighters in Smash, a hedgehog that can run at the speed of sound, a pink alien that can copy other people's abilities, a guy that is literally in 2D, Ness is where Pit draws the line for things making sense. I just found that kind of funny. The rest of this is just some more tip stuff, though I am happy Palu mentioned being able to reflect PK Thunder, as it's always super satisfying to do when Ness is trying to recover. 41, Female Wii Fit Trainer. If you remember the male Wii Fit Trainer's guidance from earlier, it featured Palutena and Pit having a simple conversation about if he exercises. For this one though, Viridi just makes fun of him for being Palutena's intern, which is way better. 40, Ivysaur. I really like how Pit opens up this one.
That's Bulbasaur. Or is it Venusaur?
I know several people who have made the same mistake, so it fits really well here. I guess it's just the curse of being the middle evolution of a starter. Unless you're the electric rat, I guess. This is also one of the very few Palutena's guidances to not feature Palutena, as the conversation is just between Pit and Viridi. This is even commented on during the guidance itself, which is pretty neat. 39, Snake. 2 pretty great references here. First off is Pit's excitement to fight Snake again.
I never thought I'd get a chance to fight him again!
This of course references Snake being cut from Smash 4 before returning in Ultimate. This being the specific character that Pit is excited for makes sense too, as he was the one to first show off the message of everyone is here back in E3 of 2018. The second reference comes in the form of Pit's idea for bomb arrows.
I bet if I put some bombs on the end of my arrows, they'd be more powerful.
Very original, Pit.
This is a reference to the bomb arrow scene in the Zelda series, which is why Viridi replies sarcastically here. This once again contributes to Pit and Link's one-sided rivalry, which we'll be seeing a lot more of later. 38, Rob. This one is Pit trying to come up with a new name for Rob.
ROB isn't a very creative name for a robot.
Oh, I'm sorry, R-O-B. It's weird that he pronounces it like that, but Palutena and the announcer say Rob. The real reason I put this one up so high though is because of one of the names Pit suggests.
How about Mr. HVC-012?
This is actually the product number of Rob in Japan, which is a pretty neat detail. 37, Duck Hunt. I like how Pit instantly goes from not wanting to fight the dog to wanting to eat the duck on his next line. This also talks about how this team is actually made up of 3 members, which is something people often forget. Regarding that third member,
A mysterious sharpshooter, eh? That does make things more exciting.
36. Sheik. This is another mostly lore-focused guidance, though they do it well here as Palutena and Viridi refer to Sheik with male pronouns despite her being female. Pit does correct them on this though. I also like the reference to the convoluted Zelda timeline here, which isn't the last time it's going to be mentioned in this ranking. 35. Pit. Yes, even Pit himself got one, where he rightfully gets freaked out with there being a second hymn. What I really like about this one though is how nonchalant Palutena is about this one due to the existence of Dark Pit. She even pokes at Pit by saying the doppelganger would never be able to defeat the real one, which is pretty funny. 34. Incineroar. In this we learned that Pit is actually an incredibly toxic free-for-all player.
Well, if that happens, I'll just let everyone else fight Incineroar until it wears off. Then I'll swoop in and steal the KO.
To be fair, that probably is the best strategy for getting KOs. Oh hey, Pit learned what a KO is! Yippee! 33. Shulk.
Let's not lose our heads, though.
Ah, British! Besides that terrifying moment, I have to point out how Palutena says Shulk.
That's Shulk.
Why does she say it like that? It sounds so weird. 32. Pac-Man.
Walk 'em, walk 'em, walk 'em, walk 'em, walk 'em.
Yeah, that was an absolutely perfect way to start this. Plus, I always felt like this specific art of Pit has absolutely zero thoughts going on behind those eyes, which makes it perfect for this. 31. Dark Pit. This is definitely the best guidance to come from the Kid Icarus series itself, as it's the one where we actually get to have another appearance from Dark Pit. This guidance though is mostly more lore stuff, though it acts more as an explanation to events following Kid Icarus Uprising. Now, I've never played the game, I only played games with Super Mario is in it, but it's cool that this explains Dark Pit's whereabouts. 30. Wario.
Wario kind of smells.
A majority of this guidance focuses on his final Smash, Wario Man, which just makes me sad remembering how awesome it was in Smash 4. Oh, and one last fun fact, this is one of the two Palutena's guidances to change between Smash 4 and Ultimate by simply editing a line rather than recording a whole new dialogue. The first mention of Nasty Garlic has been changed to just be Garlic. What an exciting difference. 29. Dr. Mario. This one focuses on how Dr. Mario is, probably not the most trustworthy medical professional. I especially like the last line from Palutena here.
Don't get sent to the emergency room. You don't know what kind of treatment you'll get.
It just makes me imagine he literally has no idea what he's doing and just gives anyone that comes in random pieces of medicine. Yeah, Dr. Mario is probably responsible for several deaths. 28. Mii Gunner. While there's nothing too funny about this one, the references here are really good. They mention how the Mii's arm cannon is activated by motion control.
There's a motion-controlled trigger in the arm cannon.
This acts as a reference to the Wii, the Mii's starting console, as that was obviously its hit feature. On top of that, Viridi's response is also great.
Motion control. That's downright revolutionary!
That is actually a reference to the Wii's original codename, the Revolution, which was a really creative thing to reference here. Oh, and like Wario, this also has been edited between Smash 4 and Ultimate, though it actually originally wasn't. In the first release of Ultimate, there was a line mentioning the backpack that the Mii Gunner used to have, but since they don't have that anymore, they updated this dialogue post-launch. Honestly, I'm surprised they went out of their way to do that, but I am happy they did that regardless, as now it makes way more sense. 27. Young Link. First things first, there are no real references to Majora's Mask, and as that is my favorite Zelda game, that does make me a bit sad. The rest of this though is pretty great, focusing fully on the confusing Zelda timeline as Young Link was the one to create the 3 branches. The mere existence of split realities gives Pit a crisis.
Wait, I'm not the only me? And nothing I do matters because another me will do the opposite? Then what's the point of doing anything?
I thought the delivery of all of his lines were perfect here, so I really like this one. 26. Cloud.
Who's this handsome devil?
Seems like Pit might have a little bit of a crush here. What makes this line even better is that Pit is almost always jealous of the handsome characters, but I guess there is just something about Cloud that Pit actually likes. Besides that funny opening, this is actually the only Palutena's guidance to change based on the mode you're playing in. They spend the second half talking about finishing touch.
One of his limit break moves is called Finishing Touch. It doesn't do much damage, but it can launch you off the stage in a split second.
Now that I know Cloud's tricks, this one's in the bag.
But if you're playing in stamina mode, Pit will instead say,
Not a problem. We're playing stamina mode.
I think it's really neat how they included that detail here, which definitely gave this a boost. 25. Bowser. This talks about the absurdity of the Mario series and how 1 minute Bowser can go from being a super menacing evil threat to just playing golf. This is always a part of the Mario series that confuses people, and it's also just fun to think about. Plus, the reference to the original Super Mario Bros. Was nice here as well. 24. Peach. Like the last one, this comments on a bit of a silly aspect of the Mario series, the sheer amount of times Peach gets kidnapped. I like this one a bit better than Bowser's because of Viridi suggesting that Peach does this for fun. Imagine being so insane that you endanger several kingdoms along with the entire galaxy all because you're bored and just want that plumber guy to come rescue you. 23. Link. This focuses on how Link has entirely changed from Smash 4 to Ultimate as he's now based on the Breath of the Wild Link rather than the one from Twilight Princess. Since it is a different Link than the one from before, Pit's rivalry is kind of left behind this time as he feels bad for him as he was stuck in the Shrine of Resurrection for 100 years. Good job in the character development, Pit. 22. Yoshi. This is Viridi questioning how Yoshi works with him being both male and able to lay eggs. This is also brought up in Snake's Kodak for Yoshi, so his existence really is just a mystery. 21. Chrom.
If Chrom can fight Marth using a weaker sword, Chrom must be stronger.
I wouldn't say that. I mean, Wario launches people with farts. Pretty sure the style of weapon doesn't make a huge difference.
Wow, my man Wario can't catch a break. He's not even relevant here. Anyway, this is a really great reference to Robin's Smash 4 guidance, where they spend part of it making fun of Chrom for not being in the game. But now since he is playable, Viridi says,
He finally made it to the fight!
that's just a really neat way to tie these two Smash games together, so I'm a big fan of this Easter egg. 20. Zelda. In this guidance, Viridi tries to manipulate Pit into doing what she wants by convincing him her voice is Zelda.
Pit! Go get me a cinnamon roll.
Right away, Zell. Hey! Knock it off, Viridi.
While it may just seem like Pit is a Zelda simp, and he very well could be, this is actually a reference to how Zelda will often call out to Link through telepathy in the Zelda series, which makes total sense to reference here. 19. Toon Link. This is actually the only Zelda character to not get a new Palutena's guidance for Ultimate, which I guess makes sense since he's the only one to not change design either. I really like how insecure Pit feels about the Links.
It's just not fair, Lady Palutena. One Link is handsome, and the other is adorable. They're cherry-picking the best bits!
The small rivalry between the two has always been pretty fun. Though I guess if I did have to criticize this, there are 3 Links now instead of just 2 like there was in Smash 4, so the line doesn't make complete sense, but I still really like this. 18. Bayonetta. There are 2 things that I really like about this one. First off, Pit being afraid of Bayonetta because she hunts angels makes complete sense and is a great detail to include here. The other thing I really liked about this one has to be Viridi's advice to Pit.
Ugh. If you get caught in one of her combos, just, wiggle around or something.
This was a reference to Smash 4 Bayonetta where that was basically the only counterplay. What an awful, awful time to be playing Smash. 17. Ryu. I like this guidance for one simple reason, which comes down to this exchange between Palutena and Viridi.
He's faced off against all kinds of competitors over the years.
Cyborgs, androids, mutants, giant monsters, superheroes, aliens, and demons, to name a few.
This references all of the numerous crossover Street Fighter has had, and hidden among those is superheroes, which references Marvel vs. Capcom, thus meaning that Marvel characters are officially canon to the Smash Bros. Universe. Can't wait to see the inevitably awesome fight between Steve and Iron Man. Oh wait, they already did that. 16. Mega Man. This is a pretty different one from the rest as it just has our main 3 here getting hyped up to see Mega Man, naming off several of his moves. I think this one is a lot of fun, and it's also cool that this is the only one to have all 3 say a line together.
Hard Knuckle!
15. Roy.
Look! Marth dyed his hair red.
Yeah, that's a great reference to how people always mix up the Fire Emblem cast. Besides the great opener though, this time we have Viridi being the simp over Roy, saying she bets he smells like heaven, which I thought was kind of funny. Whoa, 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 15? 14. Marth. I absolutely love the opening for this one.
Get a load of Mr. Fancy Pants here.
Pit is just being a hater for absolutely no reason. It's hilarious, like Marth literally did not do a thing to him. 13. Mewtwo. Viridi once again takes the spotlight here as she's absolutely enraged over Mewtwo's existence.
I will never forgive these humans!
She even suggests straight up killing Mewtwo, which is just, a little bit extreme. At least Pit feels bad for Mewtwo. Poor guy really doesn't deserve this. 12. Inkling. Building off of the last one, Viridi finally gets her wish about humans going extinct.
Yep, the monkeys were eradicated! Booyah!
I also think it's funny how Pit is confused about what year it is due to Smash's confusing crossover aspect. 11. Richter. With Chrom's removal from Robin's guidance, this becomes the only guidance to have a cameo from someone not from the Kid Icarus series, and that is... Alucard. That by itself was enough to make this one place highly, though I also really like how Pit just spends most of the time saying vampire stereotypes.
Dracula's your dad? That's so cool! Hey, do you have fangs? Are they sharp?
Pit, that's pretty personal! Do you really want to bring up blood-sucking things?
What are you? Oh no. You're not here to suck my blood, are you? I need it!
This one is just a lot of fun. Really wish they did more cameos like this. 10. Isabelle. This is where I first found out about the origin of Isabelle's name.
That's Isabelle. She has bells on her head. That's why she Isabelle.
For some reason, that line has completely stuck in my head and I quote it all the time. No clue why, but I think about this pretty much anytime Isabelle appears. My favorite part about this, though, has to be Viridi giving her opinion on Isabelle for literally no reason.
She's overrated if you ask me.
This is her only line in the entire guidance, by the way. Absolutely no elaboration or reason to say it, you just gotta appreciate the pure hater energy. 9. Luigi. This is Viridi once again being a bit toxic, this time to Luigi.
Always a bridesmaid, never a bride.
Oh, don't say that. After all, He even had his own year.
Pit also references the year of Luigi here, which was a pretty cute detail to include. 8. Samus. This one is definitely a classic as it refers to the common mistake to call a game character whatever the title of the game is.
Oh look, there's Metroid.
That's not a Metroid. That's Samus.
Just like Link isn't named Zelda.
And like Pit's name isn't Icarus.
It's a perfectly fitting joke for them to make, so I like this one. 7. Mario. Alright, might just be my infamous Mario bias, but I do really like his. Primarily, it has to do with the fact that they reference Subspace Emissary here.
He was your first ally in the fight against the Subspace Army.
It's always nice to see that mode get referenced every now and again. Pit fanboying over how famous Mario is also great. He's just like me. 6. Fox. Pit basically spends the entirety of this one ignoring Palutena and Viridi and just tries to imitate peppy hair.
Everybody, stay alert!
Considering how many people like to imitate him, especially around the time of Smash 4's release, this was an absolutely perfect fit for a guidance joke. Plus, ending it on the most famous line of the entire Star Fox series was fantastic.
Do a barrel roll!
5. Ice Climbers. This sadly gives us our final appearance of Dark Pit, though he works really well here as Palutena tries to get him and Pit to team up like the Ice Climbers. My favorite part about this though has to be Pit accusing them of cheating.
Okay, sure. But what about the fact that there were 2 of them? Didn't they get kicked out of Smash for illegal teaming?
This is actually a reference to the reason the Ice Climbers weren't in Smash 4 as the 3DS couldn't handle 2 of them at once. But unfortunately, I do have to criticize this one a bit. Take a listen to what Palutena says here.
In any case, when fighting the Ice Climbers, defeat Nana first to isolate Popo. Try to separate them.
Actually in this costume, Nana is the main climber instead of Popo, so it really should have been the other way around. 4. Daisy. In this one, Pit is completely oblivious to the fact that Daisy and Peach are actually 2 entirely different people, which I just found to be really funny.
Right. Kidnapped, then rescued by Mario. Princess Peach!
It's also nice to get some Mario Land references here to try and help Pit realize that they are in fact different, even mentioning Tatanga, but it just goes completely over his head.
Okay, I'm picking up what you're putting down. Daisy always gets kidnapped by Tatanga. Wink.
To be fair to Pit though, in Smash, Daisy and Peach do have all the exact same moves, which is, really awesome. Thanks for not even trying to make them different Smash team. But yeah, Pit's refusal to listen to Palutena and Viridi was pretty funny. 3. Pokemon Trainer. Yeah, as it turns out, the trainer himself got his own guidance as well. There's a lot to talk about here. First off is a cute reference to Team Rocket.
That little twerp is bossing those Pokemon around!
Twerp is always the word Team Rocket used to refer to Ash, which makes this a pretty fitting thing to reference. As the guidance continues though, it just keeps getting better, where the group talks about the often discussed aspect of Pokemon where people just imprison hundreds of Pokemon in their boxes, never to let them see the light of day again.
But what about the weak Pokemon who get left in their balls and forgotten? I mean, everyone has like hundreds of them in their box.
Huh, I never thought about... Pika-Pit! No!
I love Pit's reaction to that information, as he immediately remembers his Pikachu. Or maybe it's like a Mr. Mime he nicknamed Pika-Pit, we'll never know. But the best part of the whole thing has to be what Palutena says after that.
Now, Pit, I'm sure those abandoned Pokemon are all playing together at a farm upstate.
Yeah, Pika-Pit's dead. But that could be a reference to my Pokemon Ranch. No, that's what you say when you want to delicately tell someone their pet died. Yeah, this one is very dark, but I also think that makes this really funny as well. Easily one of the best ones here. 2. Lucas. When this one first started, I was expecting to place it around the middle of the list as it seemed like it would just be another one about the character's lore. Pit and Palutena talk about how shy Lucas is because of all the pain he's gone through. They even consider not fighting him. And he has gone through a lot, losing both his mother and brother, which is a pain that nobody should have to go through.
Show no mercy! Launch this crybaby to the stars!
This one caught me so off guard, like I was flabbergasted. Because of that, this was easily the funniest one to me. I'm not kidding when I say I was stuck laughing about this one for a solid few minutes. But for what's definitely my favorite one, we have Piranha Plant. Now, first off, it may seem weird that he even has one considering he's a DLC character. I've always thought that Piranha Plant was meant to be a base game character, so I'm gonna guess that's why he got one over the other DLC characters. That already gave it a solid boost, but the whole bit around this one is also fantastic. You know what, since this is our #1 choice, I think it's fair to just let the whole thing play out here.
Is that a Piranha Plant?
Not so loud, she'll hear you.
Did someone say piranha plant?
Oh no.
I wrote my thesis on piranha plants. There are just so many species. You got your basic piranha plants, your fire piranha plants, chewies, nipper plants, nipper explorers, munchers, jumping piranhas, wild patooey piranhas, propeller piranhas, naval piranhas, chewies, egg skylax, piranha pests, piranha sprouts, frost piranhas, putrid piranhas, proto piranhas, piranha gons, piranha beans, mom piranhas, small piranhas, blaster piranhas, piranha planets, bungee piranhas, big bungee piranhas, gulls, nipper dandelions, spine piranhas, dino piranhas, fire stalking piranhas, piranha corpse, rear piranhas, big piranhas, stalking piranhas, big fire piranhas, prickly piranhas,
Enough, Viridi! I never want to hear the word piranha ever again!
I guess that means I'm not getting any fighting tips. Thanks, Viridi.
I love everything about this. Not only is it probably the best reference to any character's home series, but the way they did it was also really funny. I like how Palutena was trying to hide the fact that Piranha Plant was there from Viridi, and of course Viridi's sped up dialogue is also fantastic. The sheer amount of Piranha Plants makes this one a ton of fun to listen to. So for its great mix of both humor and references to the Mario series, I think Piranha Plant is well deserving of having the best Palutena's guidance in Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. But anyways, that's it for this video. Do you like Hero's Guidance more than Min Mint and hate that I made them all tied? Let me know in the comments. Structurally, this video was very different from pretty much anything else I've done, but I hope I was able to keep it entertaining throughout. A lot of people wanted to see this, and while I was pretty nervous about this video, I think the list turned out pretty good. If you have any other ideas for things to rank, then make sure to let me know them down in the comments as well. But anyways, dry bones for Smash, and I'll see you guys next time.